Welcome to Boring History for Sleep. I'm your host. Each week, we bring you historical tales so tranquil you can drift right off to sleep. And tonight, we journey to feudal Japan, where loyalty, honor, and duty intertwined like the delicate threads of a silk kimono. Our story follows a low-ranking samurai named Ishikawa Gaemon, the sun. A pale disk in the sky filters through the paper walls of his home, rousing him from sleep. His wife stirs beside him, and for a moment, peace lingers in the air. But it's ephemeral. The morning chill soon dissipates, leaving only the humidity of a sweltering summer day. With a deep breath, Ishikawa rises. His home, though modest, is a sanctuary. Outside, the oppressive heat mirrors the burden in his heart, a debt of 300 gold pieces that threatens to crush him. He must visit the moneylender, but the thought is a bitter pill. Pride, after all, has its price. As he walks, the clamor of the marketplace fades to a dull roar. In the distance, the rhythmic clang of a blacksmith echoes, mingling with the buzz of insects. Reaching the fields, Ishikawa joins the dance of life. With a worn wooden plow, he turns the stubborn soil, sweat staining the coarse fabric of his clothes. The vastness of the sky above mirrors the emptiness in his stomach. Lunch is a luxury his bank account can't afford. Later, beneath the watchful gaze of a gnarled old pine, Ishikawa tends to his small garden. Petals from a nearby cherry tree drift down, a silent snowfall. As dusk settles, he repairs to his desk, his soul lamp illuminating a sea of paperwork. Scribes, the backbone of the samurai class, are essential but often overlooked. Every stroke of his brush adds another layer of complexity to the tapestry of his life. The arrival of an emaciated dog seeking scraps is a momentary distraction. For a fleeting moment, Ishikawa's heart softens, mirroring the dog's vulnerability. But duty calls, and he returns to his writing, the flickering lamplight dancing in his determined eyes. Even when sleep beckons, he resists, pushing on with grim resolve. For tomorrow, another insurmountable pile of paperwork awaits. And in this relentless cycle, Ishikawa finds both purpose and despair. Yet even in the depths of his struggles, a tiny flame of hope flickers within him, nurtured by the silent strength of his 47 patient comrades. Their shared vow of vengeance keeps him going. It's a promise whispered on the wind, carried on the backs of swallows returning to their roosts each evening. Like the swallows, they endure, patiently awaiting their moment to soar. They train, they scheme, they wait, their numbers dwindling, their purpose hardening like steel. Their story, one of quiet strength and unbreakable resolve, is one we'll tell another day. But for tonight, let us linger on the image of Ishikawa at his desk, a solitary figure bathed in the soft glow of a paper lantern. The weight of his responsibilities pressing down on him like the folds of 1,000 origami cranes. In the rustle of silk robes and the scratch of a quill pen, we hear the heartbeat of a samurai's life, far from the clash of steel and the roar of the crowd. For in the quiet moments, between the lines of a ledger, the true spirit of the samurai is born. And now, my drowsy listener, I invite you to drift away on a cloud of peaceful slumber. Dream of quiet victories and unwavering loyalty, of paper lanterns casting soft shadows and the steady rhythm of a scribe's pen. Rest well, for tomorrow, new adventures await. Born in the year 1659, in the domain of a minor daimyo, or feudal lord, you've lived your entire life in the shadow of Mount Fuji. Though you bear the family name of Yamamoto, like dozens of others in the region, you answer to the name given to you by your father. You recall him walking you through the rice paddies, pointing out landmarks along the way. The river where you would later fish with friends. The willow tree under which you would nap during childhood visits to the village. Your father taught you how to read and write, how to shoot a bow, how to draw and hone a Your father told you tales of glorious samurai, of battles won and Bushido upheld. Then he died when you were 18. You inherited his debts, his obligations, and his armor. And you inherited a responsibility to maintain your family's social standing. In a world where birthright meant everything, you were nothing. Your early adult years were spent mostly at home. You married a girl from the next village over. She was a good match. Her family owned a bit of land. They had connections in town. Your brother-in-law helped secure your first stipend. Then it came, the order to report for service. You left your wife, who was already pregnant, and traveled north to join your lord. Your journey took weeks. There was little pay, little food, and the unfamiliar landscape was cold. When you finally reached the capital, you understood you were a pawn. No one knew your name, No one cared if you lived or died. As long as your lord received his taxes, you served in the magistrate's office. You were young, eager to prove yourself. You worked late into the night, reviewing records, issuing warrants, balancing accounts. You chased down debtors, you delivered messages, sealed official documents, wrote up legal proceedings, all while keeping track of your lord's expenditures. You couldn't read kanji. The Chinese characters used to write Japanese, so you struggled to decipher receipts, invoices, petitions. Sometimes you failed. Sometimes people suffered. You tried to make things right. You walked back to the rice fields, clutching your lord's seal. You offered to buy back the rice that had been seized. You pleaded for extra grain to make up for lost crops. You tried to repay debts with money from your own pocket. You wanted to do right, but the system was against you. You hear footsteps approaching. You turn and see a haggard man kneeling before you. His clothes are dirty. He begs for mercy. His wife and children huddle behind him, silently weeping. He owed your lord 3 koku of rice, but he has nothing to offer. He opens his mouth as if to speak, but you raise your hand. You don't want to hear excuses. You don't want to hear his tale. You know it by heart. Years of service have made you hard-hearted. You show no mercy. You order the guard to confiscate his possessions. You force his family to leave with him. You watch them go. You are tired of this. You crave a different life. You dream of travel. Perhaps you could work for a merchant. You could become a police officer in Edo. You could live among the mighty samurai of the shogun's army. But these dreams are selfish. What would people say? How would your mother feel? Your brothers would laugh. Your cousins would sneer. Your wife wouldn't understand. Even if she did, could you really abandon your obligations? Could you really abandon honor? You weren't born into privilege, but you were born into duty. You are a samurai, whether you like it or not. You carry the weight of your station, the expectations, the obligations. You work to uphold your family's honor, not for glory, not for riches, but for the sake of duty. This is Bushido, the way of the samurai. The sun dips below the horizon, and you find yourself drawn once again to the willow tree. You sit beneath its spreading branches, feeling the weight of centuries pressing down on you. The wind rustles the leaves, whispering tales of those who came before you. The scent of the blossoms fills the air, mingling with the earthy aroma of the nearby river. You close your eyes, allowing the tranquility of this place to wash over you. Memories flickered like fireflies in the gathering dusk. You remember days spent playing by the river with your father, the warmth of his smile as he taught you to cast a fishing line into the water. You recall lazy afternoons napping under this very willow, the gentle rocking of your mother's boat lulling you to sleep. Suddenly, a lone tear escapes, tracing a path down your weather-beaten face. It's a release, a moment of You let the sadness flow through you, acknowledging the grief that has lingered for so long. The soft caress of the evening breeze carries away your silent anguish. As darkness descends, you rise, rejuvenated, ready to face the night and the duties that await you. The cycle of life goes on. The seasons will turn again. You will wake in the morning and fulfill your obligations. You are a samurai, after all. When you return to your village after 3 years of service, you brought with you news of hardship, rumors of banditry, and tales of discontent among the peasants. For the past decade, there had been unrest in the province. Farmers grew tired of paying taxes on their meager harvests. Merchants chafed under the burden of tariffs. Artisans sought relief from crippling You felt their frustrations, too. You saw it in their sullen eyes, heard it in their muttered complaints, sensed it in the angry silence that greeted your visit. Back home, your wife greeted you with a mix of joy and worry. Your 2 sons, ages 5 and 2, clung to your legs, their innocent laughter echoing in the small house. Life had been hard, but it had been good. You farmed the land. You traded fish and vegetables for grain. You had lived with the constant fear of eviction. But you had survived. Now you are back to serve. You help your father-in-law in the fields. You prepare for the worst. You know that the harvest will be disappointing. You know that your stipend is less than before. You know that you will have to supplement your income. You know that you will have to take on extra work. You visit the houses of prominent samurai and clean their toilets. You walk behind their carts. You stand guard while they sleep. You train young boys in the ways of etiquette and You tutor daughters in poetry and flower arrangement. You travel to neighboring villages to gather intelligence for your lord. You smuggle messages through enemy territory. You hunt down runaway concubines and errant samurai. You carry secret orders to distant castles. You travel dusty roads, dodging bandits and the elements. You cross turbulent rivers and desolate plains. You deliver decrees, intercept rivals, assassinate traitors. The work is tedious, dangerous, dishonorable. Sometimes you go weeks without seeing another Samara. Sometimes you go months without seeing your wife and children. You grow older, your hair turns gray, your body aches. You struggle to balance your responsibilities. You struggle to live your life. You struggle to stay true to Bushido, the way of the samurai. It is 1716. The Tokugawa shogunate has ruled Japan for 150 years. Samurai rule the country. You live a quiet existence, a cog in the vast machine of government. But change is coming. Foreign ships are appearing off the coast. The shogunate worries about invasion. Soon, you will be called upon to defend your homeland and your way of life. The time for quiet duty is over. The drums of war are beating. Are you ready to pick up your sword again? Or will you continue to walk the path of quiet desperation? Choose wisely, for your decision will determine not only your fate, but the fate of Japan itself. So viewers, thank you for joining us on this journey through the life of a samurai. Remember, honor binds us, duty guides us, respect sustains us. Be sure to check out our previous episode in this series, as well as all our other great content. Thank you for watching. In the grand tapestry of Japanese history, few tales shimmer as brightly as that of the 47 Ronin. This legendary saga has danced across the silver screen in various cinematic interpretations, each one a brushstroke painting the profound themes of loyalty and honor. Picture this: a band of noble warriors, their spirits entwined by a bond forged in loyalty, rise like the phoenix from the ashes of betrayal. Their journey is not merely a tale. It's an epic ballad that echoes through the ages, inviting us to ponder the depths of honor and sacrifice. Now, this is a very serious story, and I don't want to make light of it at all. But to me, this reminds me of the memes of a guy who had to put up with a trash talking of an annoying co-worker for months, and then the guy quit. And the last thing he did was turn off the office printer. So, yeah, you can picture how this story goes. In this episode, we'll go over the basics of this story. We'll also touch on some of its deeper meanings. Now, before we get into the story itself, I need to first introduce you to the concept of Bushido. It consists of several virtues such as loyalty, courage, benevolence, righteousness, sincerity, honor, and so. Bushido is based on Confucianism, Shintoism, and Zen Buddhism. Now, our story begins with a man named Asano Nagano, the daimyo of the small western domain of Eiko. Back in those days, there were several domains across Japan, each ruled by a daimyo or lord. The story takes place in 1701 during the early years of the Tokugawa. The shogunate was a military government which was established by Tokugawa Ieyasu. The real power rested with the shoguns, but many lords like Asano still held a decent amount of influence. The shogun at the time was Tokugawa Tsunayoshi, otherwise known as the Animal Shogun, because he loved dogs and cats and spared no expense in building facilities to care for abandoned animals. Being a kind man himself, he hated capital punishment and even banned the execution of criminals. However, that doesn't mean that things weren't strict, because to maintain order, he implemented a number of laws, including ones that restricted the rights of peasants and banned Christianity. Back to Asano, he wasn't really cut out for politics, but his father died, and the domain was passed down to him. At the time, the seat of the shogunate was located in Edo, modern-day Tokyo, so Asano had to pay a visit to the shogunate. On his way there, he stopped at the nearby town of Oko, where he met a fellow lord named Kira Yoshi. Kira was notorious for his haughty attitude and love of money, which caused him to demand large bribes from junior lords like Asano. When Asano arrived in Edo, the shogun was busy, so he was told to wait in the palace while he finishes his work. That's when Kira came in and tried to ingratiate himself to Asano by offering him wine, food, and beautiful women. However, Asano refused all of them since he was waiting for the show. To make things worse, Kira kept insulting him and questioning his qualifications as a lord, which infuriated Asano. Things got so bad that Kira made fun of Asano's appearance, saying that he looked like he needed a bath and urging him to take a dip in the hot spring. Asano then lost his cool. He grabbed his katana, a long curved sword, and charged at Kira, slashing him across the face. Although the wound wasn't deep, it was considered a serious offense to draw a sword inside the shogun's palace. Shogunate officials rushed to the scene and arrested Asano, despite Asano's pleas that he acted insane. The shogun found him guilty and ordered that he commit seppuku, a form of ritual suicide. In fact, the shogun took away his entire domain and gave it to Kira as a reward. For the record, Asano's wife and children were allowed to live. They would have also inherited the family name and domain if he had lived. But since he committed seppuku, they were all dissonant. Meanwhile, Asano's 47 retainers, known as Ronin, became masterless and were ordered to take their own lives. However, they decided to postpone that until they could avenge their lord. You see, there were many lords and retainers in Japan, and it was common for a retainer to receive special training in swordsmanship and martial arts. These warriors were expected to show unwavering loyalty to their masters and fulfill their duty to protect him. Even if the master committed a serious offense, the retainer's loyalty shouldn't waver. So now that their master was dead, these 47 retainers went into hiding. They disguised themselves and avoided their former colleagues. Some pretended to be beggars, while others became commoners. They gathered secretly from time to time to plot their revenge against Kira. Their plan was simple, yet very risky. Each member would sneak into Kira's mansion and kill him. However, this would risk getting caught and possibly having to fight their way out. One of the Ronin named Oishi Kurenai came up with a better idea. He suggested that they wait until one of Kira's guards forgot his post and left their lord unguarded. Then only one Ronin would have to break in and kill him. After 2 years of waiting, their chance finally came on the evening of December 14th, 1703. The Ronin split up into 2 groups of 23. The first group sneaked into the mansion and killed Kira's guards. The second group stayed outside to guard against reinforcements. Once inside, the Ronin searched for Kira. They finally found him in a side room where he was trying to hide. Oishi confronted Kira and asked him to kill him with his sword. Kira, however, refused, probably because he knew he wouldn't be able to win. So Oishi cut off his head. They then moved on to the next room where Kira's son was hiding. Kira had actually trained his son to become a samurai, so he was able to put up more of a fight than his father, but he too was eventually The Ronin then looted the mansion, taking valuables that belonged to Kira and any documents that could prove their deeds. They left behind the valuables of the servants and any items that belonged to the shop. Finally, they marched to the grave of Lord Asano and placed Kira's head on it. At the time, tradition dictated that a person's soul could not rest if their head was separated from their body, so by placing his head on the grave, they believed they were giving it back to him. Once this was done, the Ronin returned home, where they gathered one last time to discuss what they should do next. Everyone assumed that they would be executed for their actions, so they began making preparations for death. However, no one was expecting what happened next. Upon hearing about the Ronin, the shogun called them to his court and granted them noble deaths. They were given permission to take their own lives in a ritual called In medieval Europe, the nobility often chose to take their own lives rather than be executed, since execution was seen as a vulgar display and a dishonorable way to die. Seppuku was a similar practice in Japan, except it involved cutting open one's abdomen. The first to die was Oishi Kurenai. After giving a final speech to his comrades, he performed seppuku in front of everyone. The other Ronin followed his lead until every single one of them was dead. Their bodies were given back to their families, who built shrines and temples in their honor. Now, the big question is, was it right for the Ronin to kill Kira? The answer is complicated, and depends on who you ask. The Ronin's actions were illegal, and it's true that they should have received some sort of punishment. Kira, on the other hand, was a low-level official who insulted and betrayed a fellow lord. Beating him up and taking his land was a bit extreme, so I guess it depends on your perspective. The story of the 47 Ronin is part of the reason why Bushido, the way of the samurai, was emphasized so much in Japan. The Ronin's blind loyalty to their master is something that was admired and taught to future generations of samurai. Bushido emphasized the importance of justice and upholding the values of the samurai. But nowadays, I don't think anyone should try to uphold Bushido, at least not to the extreme that the Ronin did. You see, Bushido was designed for the samurai of feudal Japan, and today's society looks very different from theirs. So applying Bushido to modern situations usually leads to toxic behavior. For example, the value of loyalty means nothing if it's blinding you from seeing the faults of your friend. Likewise, you shouldn't stand up for bullies just because they're your friends. Bushido isn't the only example either. Many ancient traditions are like this, which is why it's so important to keep an open mind and embrace what's good from other cultures while avoiding what's bad. Alright everyone, that's all for today's video. What did you think of the story of the 47 Ronin? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you're interested in reading about this story, I highly recommend the book Shogun by James Clark. The movie adaptation starring Richard Chamberlain is also a classic. If you liked this video, please consider supporting to help the channel grow. Supporters will gain access to a private server. Thanks again for watching, and see you in the next video. Do you know where the true code of the samurai lies? Not in the clash of steel, nor the shout of the battlefield, but here, in the silence of abandoned temples, beneath layers of dust and age, in the soft whisper of old scrolls. They hold philosophies of poetry and contradictions, the secret language of a dying way of life. This is the quiet core of the samurai soul. You've heard of Bushido, the way of the warrior. But what if there was never a single code? What if Bushido, as we know it, was more a myth than a manual, more a romanticized echo than a set of rules ever written in blood? Tonight, we do not march through battles. We sit cross-legged on cold stone floors and open pages yellowed with time. Tonight, we uncover the forgotten heart of Bushido, the real samurai way, stripped bare. You can also support us by checking out our website. It is a store curated with items from small creators that fit our aesthetic. From pins to patches to apparel and art prints, there's something for everyone. As always, thank you so much for watching. Now back to Bushido. Let us begin with 2 disclaimers. First, history is not a fairy tale. There are no neat morals. There are no heroes. Only people caught in webs of circumstance and consequence. Second, Bushido was not a stagnant creed. It changed with the times, shaping and being shaped by wars and worldviews. These teachings shifted like sand dunes in a storm, so no doctrine could be carved in stone. This will not be a lesson on Bushido. It is an exploration of how ideas are born, adapted, and lost. Now let us walk among the ghosts of the samurai past. At the twilight of their existence, the samurai adopted the label Bushido. But the term itself appeared centuries after their demise, a retroactive self-branding, like calling the Victorian era Victorian only after Queen Victoria died. In essence, Bushido is a misnomer, a term applied to a long-dead culture by those who came after. This makes it difficult to define. There was no Bushido book, only dozens of scattered writings, philosophies for regional lords, moral handbooks for retainers, and manuals for swordplay. Some extolled mercy, others demanded blood. Some emphasized poetry and flower arrangement, while others obsessed over blind loyalty and glorious death. To live by Bushido would have been impossible. Even the term itself means different things at different times. At first, it described the actions of a single samurai toward his lord, then it expanded to describe the entire samurai class. Finally, it morphed into a catch-all term for the entire Japanese martial tradition. By the time it was codified, it was already mythology. When defining the concept of Bushido, we must understand it as an umbrella term, a construction used by later generations to impose order on a chaotic past. As historian Stephen Turnbull writes, the literature of Bushido has grown up around the samurai rather than having been created by them. That being said, there are works that stand out as particularly influential in shaping our modern understanding of Bushido. Texts which, despite their own internal contradictions, have been taken as representative of the samurai ethos. First, there is Hogakure, or Hidden Leaves, written by Yamamoto Tsunetomo in 1716. This text is often treated as the quintessential expression of Bushido, even though Yamamoto never fought in a battle. He was born too late for warfare, writing during an age of peace. For him, Bushido became a meditation on death, a lament for a vanishing way of life. Through the fictional character Kojiro, a samurai contemplating imminent execution, Tanatomo explores themes of courage, stoicism, and acceptance in the face of death. If I were to quote the text directly, it might sound like a call to action, a demand for instant obedience and unwavering loyalty. But to truly understand these words, we must consider the context of their creation. As Stephen Turnbull points out, the samurai were a warrior class whose raison d'etre was under threat. By the early 18th century, Japan had entered a long period of peace and stability under the Tokugawa shogun. This shift led to a crisis of identity and purpose for the samurai. Many turned to poetry and arts as outlets for their frustrated martial energies. They sought to uphold the values of Bushido. In this environment, Hagakure stands out as a reflection of a dying age, a lament for the passing of the samurai way of life, rather than a manual for action. Second, we turn to Miyamoto Musashi and his Book of Five Rings. Written in 1645, is renowned for its tactical insights into sword combat and strategy. The teachings within are cold, efficient, even clinical, devoid of the romanticism that colors Hoga. Musashi, unlike Tanatomo, lived a life of conflict, honing his skills in countless duels. His approach to combat is less philosophical and more mathematical, focused on strategy, timing, and efficiency. Winning isn't about honor or glory, but about cold, hard facts. To quote the man himself, "The way is in the empty space between your sword and the enemy's sword. Only those who know when to strike and when not to strike can be said to know the way." This focus on strategy and practicality reveals the pragmatism inherent in Bushido. They were instruments of their lord's will, expected to achieve victory efficiently and effectively. This is a far cry from the romanticized notion of Bushido as a code of honor and virtue. Instead, it emphasizes the practicalities of warfare, underlining the harsh realities of a life lived on the battlefield. Yet perhaps the most enlightening text for our discussion is Budo Shishinshu, or The Beginner's Book of the Warrior's Way by Daidaiji. Written in the late 1600s, this work serves as a guidebook for young samurai retainers, outlining basic principles of conduct and morality. Its straightforward advice touches upon crucial aspects of Bushido such as loyalty, humility, and respect. One of the key lessons revolves around the proper treatment of one's lord. Retainers were expected to prioritize their lord's interests above all else, offering their lives if necessary. But the text doesn't glorify martyrdom. Instead, it frames self-sacrifice as a natural extension of duty. To put it simply, if the retainer's life is expendable, so be it. He doesn't hesitate because his value lies in his service. Such an outlook may seem extreme, but it underscores the depth of commitment demanded by Bush. Throughout these texts, we see a recurring theme: death, not as an end, but as a tool, a challenge, and a constant companion. Each page seems to confront the reader with mortality, urging them to consider not only how they will fight, but also how and why they will die. In essence, it reveals a culture wrestling with its identity and purpose, seeking to forge a path through a shifting world. However, it's crucial to remember that Bushido wasn't static. It evolved alongside Japan, adapting to changing circumstances and interpretations. The Bushido of the early samurai was not identical to that espoused by the late Tokugawa era. This evolution becomes evident when we examine how Bushido was perceived and utilized by different groups throughout history. During the peaceful days of the Tokugawa shogunate, samurai found themselves in a position where warfare was rare, forcing them to seek outlets for their martial energy. Poetry, arts, and philosophy became their battleground. The once martial value system was refracted through this new lens, leading to an emphasis on the philosophical and aesthetic aspects of Bushido. Loyalty to one's lord was still paramount, but now it was explored in the context of an unchanging world. Concepts like death and honor took on added significance as samurai grappled with the meaning of their existence in an era of peace. It was during this time that figures like Yamamoto Tanatomo and Miyamoto Musashi produced works that shaped our modern understanding of Bushido, each offering a unique perspective on this evolving code. Tanatomo, living a life removed from the battlefield, contemplated the nature of death and honor in a world where both were increasingly abstract. Musashi, on the other hand, with his focus on strategy and efficiency, exemplified the practical application of Bushido in a time when its traditional form was no longer relevant. And yet, despite these internal debates and adaptations, when viewed from outside the culture, Bushido presented a unified front. To outsiders, whether from within or outside Japan, the samurai way of life appeared as a singular, coherent whole. This perception is perhaps best exemplified by the writings of Baron von Muffling, a German aristocrat who visited Japan in the mid-19th century. In his book, Japan, An Insider's View, he describes his interactions with the samurai and their customs. While he acknowledges the internal diversity within the samurai class, he portrays Bushido as a consistent way of life, highlighting its exotic allure to Western audiences. This external view of Bushido as a monolithic concept contributed significantly to its later codification, providing a framework for how it would be understood and taught in subsequent centuries. Despite its enduring appeal, this romanticized version of Bushido obscures the richness and complexity of the original teachings. It reduces centuries of thought and practice to a simplistic set of rules, stripping away the nuances that made Bushido so powerful in the first place. As we delve deeper into this rich tapestry, we uncover not just a code of conduct, but a philosophy, an art form, and a way of life. We encounter contradictions, debates, and evolving interpretations that reveal the dynamism of a culture grappling with profound questions about duty, honor, and the meaning of existence. It's a journey that challenges our understanding of the samurai, inviting us to see beyond the romanticized image of the noble warrior and to appreciate the depth and complexity of Bushido. What do you think? How does this interpretation of Bushido change your view of the samurai? Share your thoughts below. And if you enjoy this video, please support us. Until next time, stay curious, stay honorable, and remember, the true way is often hidden in plain sight. You are no longer a struggling foot soldier, nor a masterless ronin. Tonight, you inhabit an entirely different world. You are now inside the heart of Japan's most powerful seat of authority, Edo Castle. Towering walls, endless corridors, gardens so meticulously pruned, not a single leaf dares fall out of place. This is not a place of noise, it is a place of ritual. And here, silence is not weakness, it is control. The year is 1635. You have been granted access to the inner sanctum of the Tokugawa shogunate. Your hair is top. You walk softly, for even footsteps must echo reverence. Tonight, you dine in the shogun's palace. But before you enter its gilded gates, remember this: noise and haste are sins. In this domain of shadows and whispers, where power plays are as deadly as the katana and honor is as fragile as porcelain, every move matters. You will navigate these silent halls. You will serve tea without a tremor. You will endure the weight of stares from retainers who have served 6 generations of shogun. And if you survive the night, you will return home carrying tailies that would shame 1,000 drunken bar songs. For tonight, we enter the realm where silence reigns supreme. Edo Castle, the shadowy citadel. If you seek Shogun Imasu, bring your ears, forget your sword. For in this war of inches, eyes are the sharpest blades. Imasu rules from his citadel, Edo Castle, a maze of towering walls, endless corridors and gardens where not a leaf falls out of place. It's a place of hushed voices and precise movements. Inside its borders, chaos is banished, replaced by an army of scribes, whose quill strokes are as sharp as swords, and whose ink bleeds loyalty onto rice paper. Welcome to the great interior. Here the shoguns, wives, concubines, and servants reside. They glide through ornate wooden hallways, their steps barely disturbing the falling plum blossom petals. Beneath their kimonos, their eyes gleam with ambition and fear. Here in the great interior, a woman's life revolves around one man. She might be a lowly maid or a high-ranking concubine, but each eye, each smile, and every gesture is a chance to influence the ruler. In this silent world of shadows and whispers, alliances are made and broken over a fan's gentle sway. Power shifts on the breath of a geisha's song, and even the softest words can echo with lethal intent. Remember, in the silent halls of the great interior, appearances are everything. A slight tilt of the head, the curve of a fingernail, the rustle of a silk kimono, all speak volumes in this court of whispers. Now go. Find he awaits you, a lone figure amidst the sea of faces. Find him, and you will find the beating heart of Tokugawa. But do not mistake the shogun for a simple warrior. He is a puppet master, pulling strings across the empire. His power flows from the tip of his brush, the dip of his calligraphy pen. His warriors wear silk and carry words like weapons. Theirs is a battle of nerves, of wills and subtle jabs of honor. They fight not with steel, but with silence, precision, and patience, and they are the best in the game. Meanwhile, beyond the castle walls, peasants toil and die. Rival lords scheme and plot. Christian missionaries whisper prayers beneath the floorboards of Edo, and Dutch traders seek fortune in the shadows of the foreign ministry building. But inside the castle, time slows to a crawl. Here, seasons pass, in shades of green and gold, mirrored in the carp ponds, and the shogun's prize-winning chrysanthemums. And if you break the rules, your place could soon be on the chopping block, banished from Edo with nothing but your head. But the shogun needs you. He sits in his chamber, his face framed by the golden lattice of the toka. His gaze is steady as carved stone, his hands, calloused from years of wielding the bow and calligraphy brush, hold court. In his presence, words are measured, honor is weighed, and loyalty is pledged. But listen closely. Amidst the rustle of silk and the quiet snap of katana hilts against hardwood floors, there's a subtler melody. That's the squeak of silk thread on wood, as loyal retainers repair the shogun's prized kimono, their needles flashing like tiny swords, their every stitch a silent vow of service. The shogun watches them. He sees the flash of those needles, hears the soft murmur of their voices, smells the lavender scent of their mending thread. These retainers are part of the living tapestry of Edo Castle. their lives woven into the fabric of the shogunate. Their loyalty is tested daily, their skills honed like blades, like the threads they mend. Their lives are fragile and easily severe, but they stand ready. These weavers of loyalty, prepared to give the last inch of their being to preserve the shogun's honor and the peace of Edo Castle. Yet outside the castle walls, unrest simmers. Samurai clans simmer with discontent. Peasants whisper of rebellion. And, on the docks, the stench of decay mingles with the exotic spices brought by foreign ships. But inside the castle, beneath paper screens adorned with cherry blossoms and bamboo groves, a different reality unfolds. Here, the shogun's daughter prepares for her arranged marriage. Her every move watched, every word measured. Her suitors, hand-picked by her father, parade before her, their silk garments rustling like autumn leaves. Soon she will bear the next generation of Tokugawa, cementing alliances and securing the shogunate's future. Yet even in this moment of gilded captivity, her spirit remains unbroken. In the depths of her dark and lustrous eyes burns the flame of defiance. She is a caged bird, beautiful and fierce, and the walls of Edo Castle cannot contain her wild spirit. The outer ward, where order meets the world, enter the outer ward of Edo Castle, where the relentless march of the outside world grinds against the gears of shogunal authority. Here lesser samurai scurry like ants, their lives dictated by the whims of the ruling elite. Watch them now as they glide through the castle's wide stone gates, their faces impassive, their steps echoing the precision of soldiers on parade. They traverse the castle grounds, each movement a testament to the silent efficiency of the Tokugawa regime. Over there, a group of merchants haggle over bolts of imported cotton, their voices hushed, but their gestures sharp, their eyes gleaming with the thrill of the bargain. And farther still, a team of artisans hone their tools, their every stroke as precise and controlled as the calligraphy of the shogun himself. All around, the wheels of Edo Castle turn, grinding out the gears of shogunal rule. Keeping the gears well oiled is the job of the outer ward's inhabitants. Men who understand that while silence is golden in the inner sanctum, here in the outer reaches, words are weapons and timing, their keen edges. But let us turn our attention to the heart of the action, the castle town. It bustles with activity. Merchants hawk their wares, farmers peddle their produce, and young samurai spar with wooden swords in mock battles. Amidst this controlled chaos, the true pulse of Edo Castle beats strong, a steady drum against the backdrop of serene gardens and hushed corridors. The castle town is a microcosm of Tokugawa Japan, where the rigid hierarchy of samurai, farmers, artisans, and merchants is writ large. Here, the shogun's authority is palpable, enforced by the watchful gaze of guards in their lacquered armor. Even the laughter of children echoes with restraint. Yet within this disciplined populace, ambitions burn like hidden fires. Dissenting voices find purchase, plans for rebellion are hatched, and dreams of a new Japan take root. It is a tinderbox waiting for a spark, and should the flames erupt, the castle's elite will vanish into the silent night, leaving the townspeople to face the coming storm. Beyond the castle walls, darkness gathers. The sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of blood, orange and bruised purple. Shadows stretch long and lean like hungry ghosts, reaching towards the castle's looming silhouette. In the fading light, whispers take flight. Rumors of peasant uprisings, samurai revolts, and the ever-present threat of the western barbarians on the horizon. Fear takes root, slithering through the cracks in the castle's armor like a venomous serpent. And then, from the heart of the castle, a single lantern flickers to life. Its light, a fragile flame against the encroaching darkness, is a beacon of hope, a silent promise of order and security in a world teetering on the edge of chaos. For, in the heart of Edo Castle, the Tokugawa regime persists, their grip on power as tenacious as the weeds that cling to the castle's ancient stones. But now the hour grows late and the castle prepares for slumber. Shoshi screens slide shut, their soft whispers sealing the day's secrets within. The scent of incense lingers in the air, mingling with the subtle musk of humans and silk. Beneath the soft glow of paper lanterns, weary samurai untie their silk chokers, their armor creaking like weary bones. Their day's work done, they sink into the comforting silence of their quarters, their weapons resting heavy on their laps. Sleep descends, bringing with it the promise of new beginnings. But as the moon climbs higher in the night sky, a lone figure stirs in the darkness. It is the shogun, his eyes gleaming with purpose. He rises from his straw mat, his weathered face illuminated by the soft glow of oil lamp. For the shogun never sleeps soundly. Not when the fate of Japan rests upon his shoulders, and so he walks the castle's silent corridors, a ghost among ghosts, his steps muffled by centuries of tradition. He is the silent guardian of his people, forever vigilant, forever alone. You have walked in the shadow of a samurai, waited in the stillness of revenge, studied the fragments of a forgotten wisdom, and drifted down the lacquered hallways of Edo Castle. Now you may rest. The swords are sheathed, the scrolls are closed, and the wind carries your dreams forward. This has been boring history for sleep. Until next time, sleep well. Now, if you're someone who likes to multitask, which, let's be honest, is everyone, we've all got way too much to do these days. So, if you really like me and you find yourself falling asleep while reading a book or listening to a podcast, why not learn something new? I was saying to myself the other day, I wish there was a way that I could learn stuff while I'm doing other things, like when I'm driving or when I'm at the gym or, when I'm laying in bed trying to go to sleep. And then I thought to myself, well, there is a way, and it's called Audible. Audible has everything you could possibly want to listen to. Audiobooks, guided meditations, even sleep stories. And today we're going to talk about this amazing feature called Sleep Mode, which is an incredible new way to get the most out of your Audible subscription. Let me tell you how it works. So say you're retrying to read a physical book before bed, but your eyes are getting droopy and it is hard to focus. With Audible, you can pick up where you left off with the same title in audio. Audible will actually sync up the page you left off on with the part of the audiobook that you've left off on. Or say you're re-listening to an audiobook and the story is just so captivating you find yourself drifting off to sleep. Well, instead of turning the lights on and disrupting your sleep schedule, you can activate Audible's sleep feature, which will automatically lower the volume over time and eventually stop the audio after a set amount of minutes. And this is more than just a sleep timer. This is truly an innovative way to get the most out of your Audible subscription and your time. I love listening to audiobooks, and now thanks to this new feature, I love listening to audiobooks even more because I don't want to have to worry about falling asleep while listening to them. And that's a win-win. This has been Boring History for Sleep, brought to you by Audible. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Until next time, remember, you can learn something new every day. You just have to make it fun and engaging. That's all for now.